Underappreciated costs of leasing commercial real estate. Recognizing the full scope of commercial leasing costs is essential to not only budgeting for this critical hard cost that you are committing to for the long term, but also for optimizing the profit potential of your commercial business venture, as opposed to having more of your business revenue be siphoned away than you had anticipated and planned for. Common area maintenance escalations. Leasing commercial real estate often involves a base year for common area maintenance charges, but tenants frequently underestimate how quickly these costs escalate. While the initial quote might seem manageable, common area maintenance expenses cover everything from parking lot striping to landscaping and security personnel. Most leases allow the landlord to pass through a pro rata share of any increases in these operating expenses to the tenant. If a building undergoes significant repairs, or if local utility rates spike, your monthly commitment could rise by double-digit percentages without warning. Understanding whether your lease has a cap on these controllable expenses is vital for long-term budgeting. Without a negotiated limit, a tenant essentially signs a blank check for the landlord's future maintenance decisions. The complexity of load factors. The discrepancy between usable square footage and rentable square footage is a hidden tax that many first-time lessees fail to calculate correctly. Landlords apply a load factor, often called a loss factor, to account for shared spaces like lobbies, hallways, and restrooms. You might only physically occupy 2,000 square feet, but if the load factor is 15%, you're paying rent on 2,300 square feet. This means your effective price per square foot is significantly higher than the advertised rate. Over a 5-year or 10-year lease term, paying for space you cannot actually use adds up to a massive capital drain. Always ask for the building's efficiency ratio before comparing different properties to ensure an apples-to-apples financial comparison. Tenant improvement overages. Landlords often provide a tenant improvement allowance to help customize the space, but this rarely covers the full cost of modern construction. With the rising prices of raw materials and specialized labor, many tenants find themselves facing out-of-pocket costs that far exceed the initial allowance. Furthermore, the tenant is usually responsible for any architectural fees, permitting costs, and project management oversight. If the construction timeline is delayed due to supply chain issues, you might even start paying rent on a space that isn't ready for occupancy. It's a common mistake to assume the tenant improvement allowance is a gift when it is often a structured loan built into your rent. Managing these soft costs is essential to avoid draining your company's cash reserves before you even open your doors. Property tax reassessments. In many commercial lease structures, particularly triple net leases, the tenant is responsible for a portion of the property taxes. A major underappreciated risk occurs when a building is sold during your lease term, triggering a massive property tax reassessment. If the new owner buys the building for a record-breaking price, the local government will likely increase the assessed value, and those taxes will be passed directly to you. This can result in a sudden, dramatic jump in your monthly overhead that was never factored into your initial business plan. Savvy tenants often attempt to negotiate Proposition 13 protection or similar clauses to limit their exposure to tax hikes caused by a sale. Without such protections, you're at the mercy of the real estate market's fluctuations. Restoration and decommissioning obligations. The end of a lease can be as expensive as the beginning due to restoration clauses that require the tenant to return the space to its original shell condition. If you installed custom walls, specialized heavy machinery, or unique lighting fixtures, you may be legally obligated to pay for their removal. Landlords use these clauses to ensure the space is a blank canvas for the next tenant, often at your significant expense. Demolition and debris removal for a commercial interior can cost tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the square footage. Many business owners overlook this exit cost until the final months of their tenancy, leading to a surprise financial burden. It is crucial to negotiate these terms up front to ensure that any improvements you make can stay in place. Insurance and liability premiums. Standard commercial leases require tenants to carry extensive insurance coverage, including general liability, property insurance, and often business interruption insurance. The specific requirements set by a landlord's lender are often much higher than what a small business would typically choose for itself. For instance, you might be required to hold a multi-million-dollar umbrella policy that carries a substantial annual premium. Additionally, if your business is located in a high-risk area for floods or fires, your contribution to the building's master policy can fluctuate wildly. These premiums are not static and tend to trend upward alongside inflation and regional risk factors. Failing to get an insurance quote based on the specific lease requirements can lead to a significant gap in your projected operating budget. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning maintenance and replacement. In many retail and industrial leases, the tenant is responsible not just for the maintenance, but for the full replacement of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units. This is a massive hidden cost, as a single commercial rooftop unit can cost upwards of $15,000 to $30,000 to replace. Even if the unit is 10 years old when you move in, you may be on the hook if it fails during your 5-year term. Tenants can mitigate this by negotiating a cap on heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or a prorated replacement clause based on the unit's remaining life. Without these protections, you're essentially gambling on the longevity of the landlord's old equipment. Regular quarterly maintenance contracts are also a mandatory lease requirement, adding another layer of recurring monthly expense. Legal and administrative fees. The process of negotiating a commercial lease involves significant legal scrutiny that goes beyond a simple residential agreement. Most tenants need a specialized real estate attorney to review the 50 to 100-page lease document to identify predatory clauses. These legal fees can quickly spiral as versions of the lease are sent back and forth between parties. Some landlords even attempt to charge the tenant for the landlord's own legal fees associated with drafting the document. Beyond the initial signing, there are often fees for lease renewals, or sublease consents, or estoppel certificates. These administrative costs are rarely advertised, but are a standard part of the commercial ecosystem. Utility infrastructure and connection. While rent covers the space, it does not always cover the infrastructure needed to run a modern business, such as fiber optic internet or high-voltage power. If a building is older, you might find that the existing electrical panels are insufficient for your server racks or heavy equipment. Bringing in a dedicated data line or upgrading a transformer can cost a fortune and require extensive coordination with utility companies. Some landlords also charge administrative markups on sub-metered utilities, meaning you pay more per kilowatt hour than the utility company actually charges. It is vital to perform a technical audit of the space's capacity before signing the lease. Neglecting the bones of the building can lead to expensive retrofits that the landlord will likely not subsidize. To learn more about our law firm's commercial leasing legal practice, we welcome to visit our website and contact our law firm to schedule an initial consultation. Thank you.